Fairy Tail. Ah yes, Fairy Tail. The series was going on for over 10 years. It has ended with a total of 545 chapters. It was some journey that I have embarked, but now I am closing this chapter of my life. Well, at least for the manga. Looking back at it, I often wonder, was it worth it? Did it become something I despise? Or was it just a rocky road? I decided to look back and evaluate my personal journey with the series to decide my outcome. This is my tale of Fairy Tail. As far back I can remember, the debut of Hiro Mashima's Fairy Tail brought in the first image that was posted over the web. It was the chapter cover page, and it was at that moment that got everyone saying, "What a One Piece ripoff!" Even now, it does color the picture of being awfully familiar with his design. It took me a while before I realized that it was the same creator of Rainmaster, so it quickly got me remembering the artwork. It does resemble it, but it still puts me off to think it is One Piece, only with magic instead of pirates. I didn't consider reading the series, that is until a friend recommended me to try out the anime around 2010. I didn't read it beforehand, but I decided to give the anime a try. I have to admit, I do like the opening a lot when I first started it. Before I know it, I was engaged with the anime. He was amusing with his presentation, action, and characters. If I remember correctly, the latest episode was during Tower of Heaven arc, but then I wanted more. I decided to read the manga, and at that time, it was nearly at the end of the Edalus arc, so there were a lot of materials to read from where the anime was at. Sure enough, I caught up to the latest chapter within a week, and I was glad to be part of it. I discussed with my friends and people at forums about how fun it was to watch and read. I still continue to watch the anime for more Fairy Tail goodness, even when I know what happens next. Plus, I didn't want to miss this piece.
Yo! テレビの前のみんな! フェアリーテイルを見るときは、部屋を明るくして、テレビから離れてみてくれよな!
Good times. So what did I like about this series to begin with? For starters, the premise is fun. It's about a fictional world that is surrounded with magical entities, including beasts, magic users, and dragons. Fairy Tail is a guild that would essentially be the home for the audience to live and have fun. It's not the most original premise, but it doesn't have to be. All it wants to explore is the fun journey of these characters, as well as exploring many new encounters with magical creativity. Early on, it was like taking on missions pasted on the wall, like a role-playing game. There are plenty of arcs, including mini ones, many of which has its own story to tell. Not to mention its own entertainment. Whether you laugh or cry, it has a good amount of moments to share. It also gives us more time to explore these characters in depth, including in combat skill. It does have a main story, and that one was going well with the theme and premise. It was interesting to learn more about dragons, and one that is particularly threatening. It gave me a reason to care more about these characters, and I already was enjoying the early stage, so I cared a lot. The characters at first impression were pretty good. I actually liked Natsu, Lucy, Gray, and even Urza. I thought they share a fun chemistry together. They have their own backstory, and I thought they were interesting. Each of them has their own unique skills to fill in for varieties of entertainment. One uses fire, one summons spirits, and so on. Sure, they weren't original, especially Natsu, but with the premise, theme, and the target audience, it fits fine with these character traits. Of course, there are other characters including like Gajil and Juvia. They have nice chemistry, especially with their interactions. Fun personalities, even if some could have done differently, but it is manga, so what can I do? And all around entertaining and charismatic. The pairings aren't too shabby as well. It's actually more of a stronger perk that I tend to see fans going wild over them. Admittedly so, I enjoyed the sight of this moment. And because it was around the time where I needed a break from horrific sights of love triangle war, this was a relaxation that I needed it. The action was pretty damn cool, though perhaps benefit a lot towards the anime. In the manga, it was still good. True, it can't be said for plenty of anime in general, but I tend to think it's like Bleach, where the anime could fix, or to be precise, excuse the problem because it's entertaining in a short run. After that, you can still find the fault, but at least you got some joy. The use of magic is pretty neat. The creativity was at times pretty impressive. When it comes to elements, it's standard but acceptable design use. Anything else, it can be amusing to see what Majima can come up with it. All in all, it brings the good time with its spectacle. The artwork did look similar to Majima Oda creation, but it does change around Edula's arc, at least from what I can remember. I don't recall disliking the older artwork, but it does feel a bit odd now. Look at Happy, my god! It looks like his head is about to fly off from his body. After the apparent change, it's pretty good and solid enough to justify his own universe. The art can be pretty to look at. It captures the essence of the magical world with its really good details. The action sequences are often easy to read through. Never had a hard time to follow. The characters can look fierce when they needed to be. They can be delightful as well. The character model is pretty good for shonen standard. Bonus, the body tone is fan service friendly. We'll get to that soon. It felt like everything was going to be fine. It's not flawless, no doubt about it, but there wasn't any significant flaw that could hinder it heavily. At what point did I feel like it starts to go downhill? Oddly enough, it was during Edula's arc that I began to feel a bit unsettling with the direction. I don't think the arc was bad, but there are signs that the series may begin to falter in a much clearer state than before, and soon enough, the fans would begin to hate it. Granted, I did enjoy the Tenru Island arc, so I didn't have any real complaint outside some of the obvious one. It also introduced plenty of main plot threads that would carry out to the end. It just so happened to be the last straw before it exposes itself. Grand Magic Games arc was pretty disappointing, and some of the old elements that worked fine before repeat here, only it already has become tiresome. Ursa's character in battle mode has gotten too predictable, but most importantly, absurd. The battle sequence usually involves her struggling in a nearly equal fare, only for her to bounce back and win. It doesn't sound too bad. Unfortunately, this pattern will continue on for the rest of the series. What makes it weak is her speech tends to be repetition on friendship, and it really doesn't send a good feel anymore. Even with different wording, it still factors the same thing. The most harmful aspect is the sequence of how she will triumph. Early on, I was rooting for her to overcome with logical attributes that she has to work with. She became Superman in a stereotypical sense, meaning she can't lose and she easily overcome the odds. In a more illogical approach, even when based on magic, there's no real tension for her, and it gets boring. Nasu, while not as bad, has the formulaic battle sequence in his arsenal. Therefore, you will know how it will play out before it even starts. It's the matter of how. While he does share some of the similarity from Urza, his fighting stance doesn't feel as annoying for whatever reason. He does have friendship speech in his typical glory, but it doesn't trouble me that much. However, the main drawback is that he's the protagonist, and his battle often involved with the boss of the arc. When there's teamwork, it's perfectly fine. Otherwise, it barely feels any exciting. Some of the other characters are fine in their respective battle, though some are faulted by the spotlight being stolen by the main characters. In all fairness, Lucy and Gray are fine with their combat, seeing it's more reasonable for their victory. It's the other two that gets the most out of it, and it can lead to disappointing results. When Urza gets into a battle, I become disinterested almost immediate. It has gotten pretty redundant by the time when she fought two opponents at once while she was weakened enough to be defeated. The redundancy does carry forward all the way to the end. It's like Mashima was afraid to change up the formula of a hero going against a villain. It is shonen formula, sure, but even some series change up the formula to create the thrill once more. At Grand Magic Games arc, everything has gotten too predictable. Deus Ex Machina, or way over the top moment, has been present before, but it began to use in a much larger magnitude. I can't buy that Urza has plenty of armor to use, but moments like still engaging in combat without all senses was going too far. Even Happy practically summed up her character in battle. Because of it, it lost any momentum that it was garnering. The art is still pretty solid, however, Mashima has increased the fan service. By the way, I am referring to perverted moments tenfold. I remember vividly that fan service wasn't that apparent back in the earlier chapters, around the starting point to be exact. I get that it is normal to have those moments in any of the manga, but the amount of use is incredibly high. The main gripe is that it's distracting. I can't take the moment serious when there is something perverted being displayed. Mashima will find any opportunity to show off their skins, even during a crucial moment. Again, I understand that it does happen, but why start now and why so many of them? It's not that the series was dark and serious, but it wasn't going that far with explicitity. Arguably, the main problem is the payoff. Many elements were interesting to follow, including Zera, one of the main antagonists. However, when it comes to the endgame, it not only doesn't live up to the hype, but leaves an underwhelming reward. It's most effective towards the character, villain or not. He gets hype, later gets utterly defeated. He gets hype, later gets utterly defeated. It happened to many characters and they barely leave any strong impression. Because of those recurring problems, it affected the final arc of the series, and that's very disappointing. While there are some fun moments, the battle portion is lackluster for the most part. The rest of the set problems are also present, and it was the last thing I needed from this arc. It's the same setup, same speech, and same outcome without anything that differs itself. The final battle is disappointing, though admittedly, I enjoy one aspect of it. The point is, the final arc didn't feel final, rather another arc to deal with before going to the next one. Only this one is the last. By this point, the hate for the series was known through the forums, and I thought to myself, am I going to be that guy? I have come across other series that have suffered this fate, and while it is nothing new, it feels like the hatred screams the loudest. After a long journey, what are my thoughts on Fairy Tail? In the end, I thought it is a fine series. Truth be told, I find it strange that I didn't end up hating it or disliking it. Does that mean I like it? Well, let's just say I'm fine with it. I don't have any collection based on it or anything to protect the name. I have no problem with people hating it or even loving it. I have no need to protect this franchise for my benefit. So why don't I hate it? I guess after a series of letdown, this series does carry one part well: consistency. When it comes to battle portion, it is anything goes and formulaic. In a way, I kinda wish we didn't have any battle. In fact, I think the real positive perk is the characters. It's not like they're so original or anything. It's just that I enjoyed their developments and they didn't come across as someone who betrayed themselves. If anything, they remain consistent, whether it's their personal or pairing developments. Consistency doesn't make the character good, just easier to follow. But the good part is the journey of each one. Even the ending seems to agree with me. It's as if Mashima enjoyed that aspect the most, more than anything. The story, while it does have letdown results, is rather consistent for the most part. I am more trouble with the action and under-delivered payoff of his battle and at times story progression. That said, I at least could follow and find myself interested rather than giving up near the end and just finish the series just because. I wanted to know how these characters will end up at. I wanted to know the background of this world. Again, it's not original or amazing, but it got my attention. Also, it didn't take itself so serious, so the damage wasn't that severe. I would have liked a slice of life with the characters over action, since it was continuously slacking as the series progresses further. I know that that's not everyone's preference, it's just me thinking that maybe it could have gone better, though the length has to cut short. So, was the hate heavily exaggerated? Despite that it's a subjective topic, I sort of bought in that it was the most hated series, like ever. That was a long time ago, however. It's just the ground that I have to deal with, and while they're not right, they're not wrong either. It's just an opinion, and the amount of hate appears to be everywhere, but perhaps not. It's hard to determine the actual count of fans. Hell, I was expecting the video content to be hated like the ones that I have seen. Maybe we are just in the minority. Japan seems to like it just fine. Mashima was even voted as the 9th favorite mangaka in the recent poll. It's true that it doesn't determine much, but again, it's not easy to begin with. If you are in one place, it's not everything. I tend to think Mashima created this series simple because, well, it works with the mass audience, even if some of us have problems with it. Black Clover Yuki Tabata has stated that the fans like the easier to understand main character, and sure enough, it's a success. Maybe Mashima did this simply because it's easier to grasp, and maybe the formula is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's not to excuse his writing, I'm only saying from another perspective view. If anything, I think the series overstay is welcome. The formula and the other parts did get stale, so if it had ended earlier, it wouldn't get this much of negativity. In the end, I don't find it awful. I can't really say it's good. I can say it is fine. Would I recommend it? No, but I don't find myself frustrated with the time I spent. I enjoyed it, for better or worse. I will check out Mashima's next work, just going in with lower expectations than the last. The series is over, but the family will forever live on.